Do you like math? Because you're gonna like how everything in this deck just adds up. Okay, bad math jokes aside, I think Mathmech is definitely a great pick this format. Very underrated and has a lot of potential because of the cards you're able to play within the deck as well as its matchups into the different meta decks out there. So without any further ado, let's just hop straight into the deck profile. We're gonna start things off with 3 copies of Mathmech Circular. There's like nothing to say about this, it's just the best card in the deck, the one that you always want to see, and what makes the deck good. And then the other 3 of is 3 diameter. Not only is this like your follow-up, but it's your best normal summon. Also gives your XYZs like a negation effect, which is very good turn 1. Helps you play around hand traps, but also turns your super factorial into a negate on your opponent's turn as well, which is really great. And then for the Mathmech extenders, we're playing 2 copies of Sigma, 2 copies of Addition, and 2 copies of Subtraction. This is like cut down a little bit from maybe what it was before, just to make more room for like non-engine cards, because that's where this deck sort of shines. Like it shines through its 1-card combos and then its ability to play a lot of non-engine cards. So you don't need as many of these in your deck. Like of course they're great extenders, but like you want to start your plays off with Circular, and these are just there for extension. You don't really need more of these, and they're all super searchable anyways. And then for the Mathmech spells and traps, just 1 equation and 1 super factorial. This is a pretty standard ratio. Super factorials when you're going first, you're able to, this is like your Tri-Brigade Revolt in a sense, where you're able to summon Trishula and then have a negate as well, which is really great. Mathmech equation is good for when you need extra extension, and it just helps you push through boards going second. So I think 1 and 1 is a really good ratio. And then finally, the last cyberse extender is going to be 3 copies of Parallel Exceed. So Parallel Exceed's an interesting one. I know some people like don't like this card, and I'm sort of on the fence about it. What's really great about this card is that it turns hands without Circular into something really good. But on the other hand, sometimes like it seems a little excessive. So what I mean by that is like if you're already able to play with just a copy of Circular, like the Exceed doesn't really add too much to your end board. I guess I'll show you what I mean like in the combo at the very end, so stay tuned for that. But Parallel Exceed just seems like a little unnecessary at times when you're already able to play. But on the other hand, it does help you in hands where you're not able to play, so you can use that as a reason to actually play the card. It's also great because it's a small world bridge for all your cyberse monsters, and you'll find that's a common theme in this deck. For the consistency cards, we're playing 3 copies of Signet Mining. Not much to say about this. It doesn't matter if you're going quote-unquote neg 1 because your 1 Circular generates you so much advantage. You just always want to see it. And then 3 copies of Small World. In this deck, Small World is incredibly good. There are a lot of bridges from your hand traps to your engine to your hand traps, or like engine to engine. So like, no matter what monster you see essentially with Small World, you're sort of always able to get to another extender, which is, or your most importantly, your Circular, which is really important in this deck. Just being able to see that Circular means you're most likely just winning the game. That card's just so good. Small World is also great because we play a very cool tech card in the deck as well that you can search, and it helps you when going second. And this is going to seem weird, but I play 1 copy of Pod Desires. This was the 40th card. I had 1 more card slot, and I was thinking what I should add in. I put in Desires because it is like a consistency card, but on the other hand, like you really don't care if you don't see it. If you don't see it, like your deck's still able to function quite okay. So just being able to have this as sort of like a placeholder, I think it works well. If you don't want to play this, you can certainly play 1 copy of Nibiru, because I do side that card. And I'll explain a little bit more about that later, but you can play Nibiru here because it is a pretty good small world bridge for certain cards in the deck. And then now for the non-engine, sort of why this deck's able to shine. 3 copies of Ash Blossom, like just pretty much the best hand trap of the format. Not much to say about that. I guess just a note, like if you are watching this in like a later format, this would just depend on what the meta is at the moment. You can swap out the hand traps for whatever is good in the moment. I play 3 copies of Bell. A couple reasons for this. One, specifically at my local scene, there's a lot of branded, and this card just is really good against them. But also, it's good in the sense that like it protects you from those cards like Bestials and Ishizu Shufflers, Called by a Grave, stuff like that, because your trap is vulnerable to cards like that. So being able to stop that is also really great. And then 3 copies of Effect Failures may seem a little weird since this hand trap is just generally considered to be worse than a card like Impermanence. But in this deck, it fulfills another role in the sense that it's a pretty much the perfect small world bridge for your engine. So what I mean is like, let's say you open like small world plus like a Bell or an Ash. Well, you can just turn that into Veiler, and then Veiler matches up with Circular being light monsters. So you're able to search it from there. And then of course the hand traps match up by having 0 attack, and everything else is just different. So Veiler not only is a pretty solid, okay hand trap, but it also works as the small world bridge. So I think you do need to play this in the deck. And 3 copies of Impermanence. This card, one of the best hand traps in the game right now, so not much to really say about that. And then I decided to play 3 copies of Book of Eclipse. Book of Eclipse, also similar idea to like Imperm. It's really great, this format. It's good into pretty much everything aside from like Labyrinth, I think. So just being able to have access to this is really great. Like single-handedly, it can turn off like problematic monsters like Winda. It can also shut down like the branded fusion monsters, so like Rinbrum and Mirror Jades. It can be really important for that. And then the thing with this deck is like, you're just killing them pretty much if you're able to resolve your Circular combo, because Circular alone is just game. So yeah, you're just able to kill your opponent pretty much no matter what. So yeah, we're playing that for that. So even if we book our opponent's full board, like we're still able to break through it and just kill them. And then finally, the last card is 1 copy of Lava Golem. So in this deck, Small World functions not only as a consistency card, but it also helps you go second. So like, there are a lot of bridges in this deck that help you get here, for example. So like, for example, if you start off with like one of your addition, subtraction, or something, then you can turn that into like a copy of Ash Blossom, and then turn Ash into a copy of Lava Golem, and that's just a going second card. Or like vice versa, Ash into subtraction into Lava Golem, because they only match by being fire. Something you can do to improve the small world lines in this deck is, like I mentioned, instead of playing the Desires, play 1 copy Nibiru, because Nibiru is that bridge between or sorry, no, not Nibiru, some other like light monster to be a bridge with Lava Golem. So you can technically, if you want, go from like your light cyberse monsters into Lava Golem as well, but I didn't feel that was necessary. I used to also be playing like a light kaiju in the deck, just so I'd have that option to go from like diameter into a light kaiju, and that's definitely an option you can have, but I decided it just wasn't worth it. So I decided just to play the 1 copy of Lava Golem. But yeah, that's like up to personal preference. I don't know how often that will come up, because your light monsters are usually the better ones you want to keep in hand anyways. Moving on to the extra deck, we were playing 1 copy of Laplation. I think you only need 1. You're really only going to be summoning it off the trap once going first, because you just win on the next turn. And of course going second, like if you really need it as removal, like yeah, it's there. Like you just have 1, and I think that's good. 2 copies of Alan Birchin. I think this is definitely necessary. Even without Kashtira, like you go through 1 on your turn 1 and the second one for follow-up. And then for the Link monsters, because at the end of the day, this is a Link deck, playing 1 copy of Disciple, 1 copy of Devotee. This is really important for the combo, so I'll show you at the very end with Circular what you can do. These cards are just really great because they generate a lot of bodies for you turn 1. So you definitely want to be playing these. 1 copy of Lingeribo. I guess this is technically not necessary because, like, well, if your opponent gives you Ibli, like, well, you have Link Disciple, you have Link Devotee, like, it just doesn't really matter. But Lingeribo in this deck's, like, good because it has that effect to negate traps. So, since you are playing a lot of cards in your main deck that aren't, like, the greatest against trap decks, like Labyrinth, then, like, being able to summon Lingeribo can be really good because it's just, like, trades 1 for 1 with the trap. It also protects like your end board from cards like Evenly Matched and Infinite Impermanence, so that can be really great as well. So I think Lingeribo is definitely a great addition to this deck. For the Link 2's 1 copy of Splash Mage. This is probably honestly my favorite Cyberse extra deck monster aside from Access Code. This just feels so good being able to bring something back and then keep the Link climbing from there. 1 copy of Update Jammer. This is how you go for a game. It just helps your monsters attack twice. And then 1 copy of Security Dragon. This is gonna seem weird, but my logic with this was, 1, it helps you play around a card like Contact C, because I figured like some people would side in Contact C because this deck, it's like sort of popular at the moment. So if they side Contact C, like you need a generic like Cyberse Link monster to go into that, well, isn't Transcode Talk or Access Code, because those just take too much resources to make, I think. But Security Dragon's also great because its bouncing effect actually gets around cards like Mirror Jade's effect to destroy because you return it to the extra deck. So there's something to keep in mind. It's a decent piece of removal as well. So like instead of having to go to access code every single time, you can do something like Security Dragon, bounce something, and then like make Heat Soul or something after that if you want. If you don't need to like break like an entire board. So I think I like Security Dragon for that reason, but it's definitely a flex slot that's completely up to you at the end of the day. One copy of 5P Masquerena. This is part of your end board, and then one copy of Cyberse Wicked. This card's actually really great in this deck. This is what gets you your follow-up in your regular combo. So like the great thing about your regular circular combo is that not only do you set up your board, you also get guaranteed follow-up with this. So it's just really great. It also gives Cyberse monsters, it points to like protection from card effects, which is pretty cool. And then for the Link 3's one copy of Heat Soul, this is a really integral part of the deck. Like you make it with your really bad hands, and you can just play like hand trap control at that point. It's a really good card in a simplified game state, and it's just one of the best Cyberse extra deck monsters out there. One copy of Transcode Talker, similarly like Splash Range is used for link climbing into your bigger monsters. And then I play one copy of Access Code Talker. You can play two, but I decided to play the Security Dragon over it instead. Like you play two to play around a Kashtira's, but for me personally, at least in my local area, there aren't many Kashtira's, so I think I can get away with playing one and allowing myself the option of Security Dragon as a sort of a tech card instead. But yeah, like I said, you definitely play two if you were taking this to a bigger tournament. And then the last card is really up to you. So a lot of people, when they play Masquerena, they'd want to end on a card like Appaloosa. I personally don't like Appaloosa in this deck at all. It's like you're never making it on your turn one. You're only ever making it on your opponent's turn. But then the biggest it ever is 2400. And like, yes, you have ways with like the trap to protect it, but I just don't like it that much. I'd rather have a card that allows me to actually do something proactively on my turn. So like a Cyberse Link 4 essentially that I can make despite being locked under Cyberse monsters. That isn't access code. So like let's say I burned through the access code already, or access code just isn't the best on to summon on your opponent's turn. I'm thinking of cards like Topologic Bomber Dragon, Mathmech Crusader Avermax. Like those are pretty solid cards. I'm personally leaning towards Avermax because Avermax summoned with IP is still considered like an auto win against some decks out there. Like yeah, it's not going to do anything against Branded or Sprite, but against those decks, like I decided to just make the concession that okay, if I end on the IP board, I can just link some into Heat Soul and just get a draw. Like yeah, it's not as powerful as something like Appaloosa would be then, but I do like having that extra Cyberse Link 4 in my extra deck. So it's up to personal preference, but I would personally put Mathmech Crusader Avermax. So that's it for the main and the extra deck. I guess I can quickly go over the side deck I have. Like this is just subject to change and it's very dependent on your local meta, but yeah, I'm just playing 3 copies of Nibiru, 1 Duster, 3 Cosmic, 1 Heytrune. This just helps fix the math a little bit in terms of siding patterns. 3 Evenly, 3 D-Barrier, and 1 Appointer. So just a sample deck, side deck. Like you definitely don't have to use this at all, but this is what I'm personally going with for my local metagame. But yeah, now let's get into some combos with Circular, because this deck definitely revolves around that card, and most, if not all, of its power plays come from it. So yeah, I'll show you guys what you can do with just Circular in just a moment. Alright, so going first with Circular, I'm going to be showing you what your standard combo is going to be. It's because most of the time you're just ending on this board when you're going first and you go uninterrupted. So we're going to start things off with Circular, sending a copy of Sigma from your deck to the graveyard, special summoning itself out, activating the Sigma in the grave to special summon itself back since you don't have a monster in the extra monster zone, activating Circular then to search any Mathmech Solar Trap. You're searching Super Factorial. This not only protects you against Nib because it gives you something just even if you get Nibs, but it's also just a great part of your end board. Next, you're going to overlay the 2 for a copy of Alambertian. Alambertian effect is going to detach the 2 to search any Mathmech card from your deck to your hand. We're going to specifically be adding Diameter, and since we haven't normal summoned yet, we can then just normal summon Diameter and use the effect to bring back any one of the Mathmech monsters in your grave. It doesn't matter which. We're then going to link these 2 into a copy of Link Disciple. and this into a copy of Link Devotee, and then use Alan Bertine's effect to tribute the Devotee to summon a level 4 Mathmech back from your graveyard. So it doesn't matter, once again, which one you summon, but then we're going to trigger the Devotee effect to get ourselves 2 tokens since it was tributed while it was co-linked. So the important part about this combo, I guess, that isn't as intuitive is use Alan Bertine's effect to tribute Devotee rather than Link Disciple like you used to. So then you're going to turn the Link Disciple and one of the tokens into a copy of your cyberse Wicked. And then from here, you can turn these. So like now, depending on like if you want to use up the Lingeribo in your extra deck, what you can do is turn this one into a copy of Lingeribo, and then turn these 2 into a copy of your IP Masquerena. So like this protects you against evenly, it protects you against imperm on your Masquerena, which is pretty solid. Otherwise, you'd be left with like a Alan Bertine on the board. So it's just completely up to you. Sometimes I don't like to burn it because I'd rather save it because it's just going to get beat over. But anyways, this is like the most you can do with the monsters that you have access to, since you can't summon Link 3s or higher this turn because of Devotee's effect. But yeah, when you special summon one of these cyberses, you're going to use the Wicked effect to banish any cyberse from your grave. Just don't banish one of the level 4s. And then use, Alan Bertine should be in the grave. You banish one of these cyberses to add a copy of your Diameter for follow-up. So essentially, this one card off, like one circular, grabs you all this, which is actually pretty solid. Considering it gives you follow-up, it gives you a board as well, and that's sort of like all you can ask for in a combo. But on your opponent's turn, essentially, you have, like I said, a trap negate, so no imperm, no evenly matched, and then you're able to turn the IP and the Wicked into, like I said, I personally would play either like Zerboros, Bomber Dragon, or Mech Knight Crusader Avermax. You just turn it into one of those, and then that's going to be really great because each of them sort of has like a cool effect to pair with Cyber Factorial. So like the Topologics, you can trigger it during either at any time with the trap by summoning 3 back. But with the Avermax, like, then you protect your Lingeribo, you keep it as a trap negate, which can be really huge, actually, against certain decks. And then Super Factorial is just going to be able to bring back the 3 level 4 Mathmechs, and then overlay those for a copy of Laplacian, and then you can use it to send a card from your opponent's field, your monster, spell or trap, and a card from their hand. And of course, since you XYZ summoned it using Diameter, you do have a negate as well. So that's sort of the general first turn combo this deck has, and then during the next turn, like, you're just killing them off of like Diameter, because as soon as Diameter brings something back, you go Splash Mage and then Transcode and then Access Code, and that's game. So yeah, that's sort of the general going first combo. Most of the time you're going to be ending on that. Like I said, what you summon off of IP Masquerena is going to depend on personal preference, but most of the time, like, that's sort of the extent of what you can do with one Mathmech Circular without introducing like a bunch of crazy bricks. So yeah, let's move on to the going second combo. Alright, so for the going second combo, once again, all it's going to take is one copy of Circular. You're going to start off the same way by dumping Sigma, summoning Circular, Sigma summoning itself back, triggering the Circular to add a copy of Equation. And then from here, what you're going to do is overlay the 2 for a copy of Alan Bertine again. So same idea as the first one. This is sort of how most of your combos are going to start. You're going to want to search your Diameter. And then from here, you can like normal Diameter, summon this back. And then you essentially just have game on board. So what you can do is like turn these 2 into a Splash Mage. Splash Mage brings back one of the level 4s, just not the Alan Bertine, because you need to make a copy of Update Jammer, and then you're going to be able to then turn these 2 into a copy of your Transcode Talker. Transcode Talker brings back Update Jammer, and then link off these 2 for a copy of Access Code using Update Jammer to let it attack twice. And of course, Access Code is going to be 5300, and then you have 3 pops as well. So this is sort of just your very, very clean and fast OTK. You don't have to add Equation. I'm just showing that you can add Equation because it will give you that one extra extender to maybe play through one of your opponent's cards. But if you, for example, know your opponent just doesn't have anything, you can search the trap. Like, it doesn't matter in this case. Another quick thing is, if you need an additional pop, before you make Splash Mage, you just turn one of the Link monsters into a copy of Link Disciple or Lingeribo, just so you have an extra attribute in the graveyard to banish for Access Code Talker. But yeah, that's just a very quick and clean way to win games with this deck going second. Just all you need is a single copy of Circular. So if you hand trap your opponent a bunch, you can just do this and win the game on the spot. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what you thought about it in the comment section below. Do you specifically prefer like a separate combo tutorial from the deck profile, or do you prefer it all to be in one video like we did here? But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. But with that being said, I will see you guys in the next one. Take care.